You'll see our board and our speakers on camera right now, and people are slowly starting to come in. So we'll wait another couple minutes as people get into the meeting. You will see the agenda. Thank you, John. John has put a link for tonight's agenda into the chat. Everyone, you can click on that and get your agenda. And let me just get my copy of it. So I hope you all are well. I hope everyone is enjoying the spring weather. Welcome, welcome. So we'll wait a couple more minutes and then we'll get started as I'm watching the numbers go up. So we have a special meeting tonight with wonderful speakers, and our focus will be on poetry. So something very refreshing and spring-like for the season. Okay, so give another minute and then we'll get started. So welcome everybody. A few more people are still coming in. And please keep in mind that if you would like to write a note to your fellow Ganec members or to the board in the chat, you must address it to all panelists and attendees. If it just says all panelists, only the people on screen will see it. So you want to make sure you address it to all panelists and attendees. Yes, and Robin Gar is correct. Let's help everyone get vaccinated soon. I have my second shot coming up. So continue being safe, continue being smart, wear your masks. 2 masks are better than 1, and we'll get through this. Okay. All right, well, it looks like the numbers have slowed down a bit. We're up to 65 people, 64 people, so I think that's pretty good. And yes, I think that Matt Baker does get the Epic Beard Award. I have to make a special Ganec Apple Award for that, Matt. Okay, the beard, the hair of Pandemic Hair Award. Okay, so welcome everybody. Good afternoon, everyone. So, okay, here's Deborah. Perfect. So tonight's agenda, as you can see, we'll have some wonderful guest speakers, and Kevin Lawrence will moderate their discussion, and then we will have committee reports and a little summary of Destination Capitol Hill. If there's any urgent business that needs to be brought up, please you can write something, you can write comments or questions in the chat, and of course the committee chairs will be able to take questions as well. So a couple of things. I don't have a very long message to give everyone, but I would like to let you know some news. First of all, from the WFTGA, the World Federation of Tourist Guides Associations, we do have a new area representative. His name is James Saunders, and he is in Toronto. He was the president of the Toronto Guild, and he is now our area representative. And that's covering a huge area. It's North and South America and islands and different things. So he's got a lot to cover, but he's a great guy. Some of you may have met James or heard him speak at the WFTGA meeting, the virtual meeting that we had in March, and he's really great, really a great guy, really very dynamic. Since he's stepping down, since he's finished with his role in Toronto, he can concentrate more on WFTGA. So we've got a really great ally there, really great information that we'll be getting from James. The other thing I'd like to bring up is we are starting to think of and work on planning for the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And so John Semlak in our education committee is spearheading that, and he would love to hear from members with their ideas or their thoughts of how to commemorate this really important anniversary for New York City, indeed for the entire country, if not the entire world. So you can email your ideas directly to John. Use his secretary email. So it's secretary@Ganec.org. Okay, so secretary@Ganec.org, and he's working on this as member of the education committee, and with the board also will get involved. But this will be our channel for you all to contribute as well. And Mike Morgenthau, thank you, Mike, for putting his address into the chat. So put your ideas there, send them to John. He'd be happy to listen to you and to figure something out. And the more the merrier. Now, as the weather is getting nicer, I've heard of this amazing thing is happening. Tours, live tours are going on. People are getting booked with tours. And I had an email with Beth Goff the other day, well, just today, actually. She said we were going to meet up and she said, I can't do it. I've got 2 tours. And I think Kevin Lawrence has tours coming up. People have tours. So people want to get outdoors. I know I want to get outdoors, and that's partially why I so always so frazzled, because I'm just looking out my window and thinking, how can I get outside? How can I rush through everything so I can just get outside and get into the sunshine and get out there into the parks and everywhere. So get out and explore. And if you are giving tours, very easy way to prepare yourself for it. Check out our health and safety guidelines. They have been updated. Patrick and the health and John and the health and safety committee have worked very hard on this. The guidelines are updated. The sheets, the PDFs have been updated as well. So you can also use those. You can refer to those and send your clients and your guests and the tour operators that you may be working with to our guidelines. Make sure that they're being followed. So what do they include? Of course, tour with your mask on. We're all getting really good at that. I know I talk for hours wearing a mask. You're just used to that. Continue to maintain your social distancing. Everybody's washing their hands, using their hand sanitizer, the usual. We've been going through this for a year. We know the drill, but with this beautiful weather, with these wonderful spring breezes, it's just great to know that people are out and about. And as part of that, please, please, please check out Tour Your Own City. If you have posted tours to Tour Your Own City, make sure they're up to date. Go back in there, maybe zhuzh them up a little bit for the springtime, change the language a little, maybe add a tour. You might have something new in mind for this beautiful weather. So make sure you get into Tour Your Own City and update that. And Mike Morgenthau will be giving us more information about it, including we want to do a little more PR for it too. So keep that in mind. Update your Tour Your Own City. And if you have problems with that, you can go onto the Tour Your Own City website and you can see that you can see who to contact if you're having issues with it. You can contact IT as well, and yeah, just give it a little refresh and then get out there and start touring. So I thought somebody had raised their hand, but if you have questions, guys, remember, put them into the chat and make sure so all panelists and attendees can see them if you have anything, or if you have anything to address directly to the board. Okay, so that's really it, sort of short and sweet. Just again, happy spring to everybody. Good luck and happy touring to those of you who have tours. I'm really excited that you're doing that. And it's really good to know that I think with this sunshiny spring weather, everything's opening up, including us, including Ganec. So good luck with all that, and just please keep safe, and good luck with all the vaccines. Keep posting about getting the vaccines. I think those are the happiest posts these days. I got my second shot. I got my next vaccine. So so good luck with all that. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn things over to Kevin Lawrence. Kevin Lawrence, who's our board member at large, will be in charge of moderating our discussion with about poetry and about Poetry Month. So without further ado, I'll let him take over. So take it away, Kevin.
Thanks, Emma, and good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, I guess. It's nice to see that the day is lasting a lot longer into the spring now. As Emma mentioned, we wanted to celebrate poetry today because it is the 25th version of the National Poetry Month. And we have 2 great representatives. Many of you will know, of course, all of you will know, Matthew Berger, former president of Ganec, great reciter of poetry and our awards committee chairman. And he is joined today by Stephanie Berger, who is going to introduce us to the the Poetry Society of New York City. And if you look at the agenda, we were also going to be joined by her colleague, Jackie, but she's feeling a little bit under the weather, but we appreciate her willingness to participate in this month. And we do want to make this a very conversational, very loose form of a membership meeting. And so I want you all to maybe wander over to your bookshelf and look around and grab around for one of your favorite poems or poets. Maybe if we have some time, people, if they're really eager to share and read their poems, we might be able to raise your hand. We'll see what we can do, but you can at least post it in the chat room. And as Emma said, if you are going to post things in the chat room, please remember to include panelists and attendees, not just panelists, because then only the names that you see up on screen will be able to see your posting. As I mentioned, it is National Poetry Month, the 25th version of this. I've heard people say that the reason they chose April as Poetry Month is because it evokes the very famous lines from T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland. April is the cruelest month, breeding lilacs out of the dead land, mixing memory with desire. That is not the case. They chose this month because they actually looked the Academy of American Poets. There's so many societies out there, it gets kind of confusing. But they chose this month looking back at the success of February being Black History Month, and then March being the success of Women's History Month. And you can learn more. I'm going to put into the chat room more about the history and all of the different events that are going on around the city that are going to be celebrating National Poetry Month. I know that poetry is not for everyone, but we were talking just earlier before we got online. Poetry's been a big part, and actually in some ways I owe my career as a tour guide to poetry. Before I went off and studied Chinese cultural history, when I just got out of undergraduate school, a very young person, I was actually a poet in the Iowa Writers Poetry Workshop. And it was my interest in the influence of Chinese poetry on American poetry that really got me studying Chinese poetry. And then, realizing that it would be difficult enough to just publish poetry, much less make ends meet and make a living, I went where the money is. I went into being a historian of Chinese cultural history, right? But then when I'm actually in China, I realized I need to actually do something to pay the rent. And so I started developing tours around China that very much were influenced by the references in Chinese poems and literature and art as well. But, in the Chinese tradition, they're very much tied into one another. Every Chinese poet is a William Blake the illustrator. Every Chinese painter is a William Blake the poet. So you got to think of it sort of that way. And here in New York, as I was mentioning to Matt and Stephanie and the other board members, I think a lot of us don't realize how much poetry is probably our tours. I'm sure all of us, when we are over at Liberty Island, we talk about Emma Lazarus's sonnet, The New Colossus, not only how it contributed to funding the pedestal, but especially after 1903, when they put that cast of the poem in the pedestal, how it really changed the way people looked at liberty enlightening the world to this mother of exiles, welcoming the poor, the hungry, the huddled masses, right? And so, but I was saying, when I'm on the Brooklyn Bridge, it's Hart Crane. If I'm on the Brooklyn ferry port dock, I'm sorry, it's Walt Whitman right there in front of the Eagle Warehouse. If I get a group on the Staten Island ferry, inevitably Edna St. Vincent Millay, we were very tired, we were very merry. And you know me, I think everyone's a little merry, right? And so, but the poet I've been obsessed with, and I want to share an image with you guys because it really set the tone for the celebratory spirit that I wanted to get in tonight. I've been doing a lot of research, as I mentioned to everyone earlier, on Langston Hughes, because I'm developing an online tour for a corporate affinity group about the relationship of Black civil rights movement and the gay civil rights movement, the LGBTQ civil rights movement. So I've been reading a lot of Langston Hughes, and Harlem to me is just defined by Langston Hughes. And some of you may not know this, but he's actually buried in the middle of the Schomburg Center for the study of Black culture. And when they actually dedicated that, there's this beautiful cosmogram that's based on a very early poem of Langston Hughes called The Negro Speaks of Rivers. And so there's 4 rivers that come together, the Nile, the Congo, the Mississippi, and of course, the Hudson River. And in the center, there's a little island that ends with the last line of that poem, "My soul has grown deep like the rivers." And when they dedicated this, I just stumbled on this photo today. They had a celebration, and why is my And none other than Maya Angelou and Amarie Baraka are there dancing on that cosmogram. And so it just sort of sets the tone. So that's the type of celebration that I'm hoping you guys will bring throughout the month of these great contributions and places here in New York City related to New York City poetry. And then finally, the one other image that I'm just going to share with you is that part of National Poetry Month that they do is they have a contest for high schoolers to come up with a image that will be part of their poster. And you can get a copy of this poster for free if you go to the American Academy of Poetry. And the winner this year, inspired by a poem by the current poet laureate, Joy Harrow, who is our first Native American Indigenous poet laureate. But the actual illustrator and painter of this is a Brooklynite. It is a young man, Bao Lu. He is a first generation immigrant, Chinese American, and he is a student at Edward G. Murrow High School. And so Brooklyn is being well represented in Poetry Month as well. All right, so that was just sort of a general introduction of all of, yeah, Maya looks like she's having fun. She could swing, right? Well, let's turn I want to hear from Stephanie and Matt. Stephanie, could you tell us a little bit about the Poetry Society of New York City, its history, how it got started, and what you guys do?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here, Kevin. Hello, everyone. My name is Stephanie Berger. I am the co-founder and CEO of the Poetry Society of New York. And our mission is basically to bring poetry to everyone. I have to beg to differ with what you said earlier, Kevin. I think poetry is for everyone. It just depends on the poem. You would never say that music isn't for everyone, would you?
I would not.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. It's like, William Carlos Williams, he said, the news, it's difficult to find the news in poems, but people die miserably every day for lack of what is there, right? So I totally agree with you. It's just that people tell me poetry's not my thing. And I feel like, oh, you just haven't gotten the right
You just
poem.
haven't found the right poem. Exactly. Everybody's tastes are a little different. So yeah, and so our programs include the New York City Poetry Festival. And that event we founded on Governor's Island in 2011. It's how and where I met Matthew Baker for the first time. The New York City Poetry Festival is the largest and most inclusive gathering of poets in the country, and we've been doing it for 10 years. We obviously had to skip last year, but we are going to be doing our 10th annual event this July, and we're so excited. And we're actually spending National Poetry Month at the Poetry Society, basically just accepting submissions for the festival. The way that the event works is anybody who runs a poetry organization, collective, small press, magazine, anything in the city can come and present for 30 minutes on a stage. So we make it like super equal. And it's really nice because you get, Pulitzer Prize winning poets on the same stage as, high school slam team, or folks from a senior center in the Bronx who have like a writing club. You have just poets from every nook and cranny of the city, and it's so much fun, and we're really just thrilled to be able to bring it back this year.
If I may,
yeah.
This group will be particularly tickled by the names of the stages at the fest.
That's true. I hope you would be. We have the Algonquin. Some of you may have heard of it. Chumley's, the White Horse. And I know that you, Matthew, give tours of that include all of these places.
That included all of those places, yes.
So, yeah, so, and in addition to the New York City Poetry Festival, we have actually begun offering an incredible number of programs, particularly over this past year. Some of them are online. We have a weekly writing workshop called the Milk Press Virtual Workshops. Those are also super inclusive. Anybody can come to those. And what makes those workshops distinctive is they're all generative. So the point of coming to them is to come together and like learn something and then also create new work. So we're excited, you know, some wonderful things have come out of this year, I have to say.
Great. And some of our members are actually posting in the chat, but they're only doing it to panelists, but they do include Dorothy Parker, so the Algonquin, and nobody's mentioned Dylan Thomas, but anyway, great. That sounds like great work. And so it's a one-day event, or is it?
It's 2 days. It's a weekend long. It's free and open to the public. This year it's July 24th and 25th. And we hope that all of you will join us. We're also, again, we're accepting submissions all month long from organizations that might want to participate. And we're also fundraising all month long. We have a fundraiser campaign and we have our spring gala on April 23rd, which is one of my favorite events of the year. It's virtual. What?
Shakespeare's birthday.
Yeah.
April 23rd. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
I'm sorry, whose birthday?
April 23rd is William Shakespeare's birthday.
Oh, right. Yeah. And I wonder,
great day to have a poetry event, you know.
Exactly.
They actually, I know last year they also didn't have this, but I wonder that you might find online, they do a reading of all of his sonnets in Central Park. They've done that for a number of years, but it was interrupted last year. So
one of those things I keep meaning to attend and never have.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun to hear people recite all 100 of the sonnets. Matthew, can you tell us a little bit about what you've done with the Players Society and other online things?
First of all, I want to also lend my voice to the Poetry is for Everyone team. As soon as Stephanie mentioned it, it made me think of the opening paragraph of Erica Jong, who of course, great New Yorker, great New York novelist, wrote called The Necessity for Poetry. And I happen to have a copy right here and I looked at it. So she says, people think they can do without poetry, and they can, at least until they fall in love, lose a friend, lose a child or a parent, or lose their way in the dark woods of life. People think they can live without poetry, and they can, at least until they become fatally ill, have a baby, or fall desperately, madly in love. I am a big believer in this, you know, and I have been a believer in it quite literally all my life. Not in those words, because I read them as an adult, but you know, the sentiment behind them is something that I started just very early because I had been reading and writing poetry since I knew how to read. Thanks mostly, you know, partly to my mother, but which I think a lot of my friends here at Ganec know. You know, the Players is the great social club for theatricals mainly. That was founded in the late 19th century by Edwin Booth. And I've been a member. It would have been my 20th anniversary ago. But because, of course, like everyone else in this group, the pandemic put me out of work, I had to take a withdrawal from the club right before celebrating my 20th anniversary. But there at the Players, gentlemen who are no longer with us, great actor Michael Tolan and playwright Mayor Ribelow, or published under the name M.Z. Ribelow, they were sitting down in the grill room one evening talking about how New York City, this is the late 90s, you know, had all these great cafes and clubs and whatnot where young poets could go and read their work. But there was nowhere where you could go to hear the world's great poetry read aloud. And that a club full of actors like the Players seemed uniquely qualified to remedy that. So they started together a series called Poetry at the Players, where people showed up, read 2 classic poems. It was very specific. We didn't read our own work because there were plenty of options for that. The whole point was we were doing something different. And they got busy, and especially, both of them have since passed away, but as Michael's health, got poor, Mayor was having a hard time running it on his own. And there was one year that they only had 3 readings the whole year. And I said, look, I'm not much of an organizer, but can I help? And Mayor said, sure. And so I became his assistant, and we ran it together until his health deteriorated. And again, without any poetry at the Players this year, we don't have any anniversaries to celebrate, but this would be my 10th anniversary as artistic director of Poetry at the Players. And we always do it according to themes. So like in March, which is Women's History Month, we would do women poets. In February, sometimes we would do love poems. Sometimes we would do Black poets because it's also Black History Month. If we're not doing women's poets in March, we would do Irish poets, things like that, mainly just to give a sense of structure to the evening. And I would always post about it whenever on social media, whenever we had a good evening. And Stephanie one year noticed my posting and asked me, hey, what's your connection at the Players? I've been wanting to do an event there. So I said, this is a match made in heaven, 2 organizations that I love dearly. And so the first spring fundraiser gala that the Poetry Society ever did was at the Players. And that really began my involvement from the inside with the Poetry Society. I had been attending the Poetry Festival, I forget what year it was, but Stephanie will know because the first time I went to the Poetry Festival, Walt Whitman was there. Now, of course, a reenactor was there, but man, you think I've got an ear? Walt Whitman was there in his beard, and he did this amazing recitation. And my daughter, whom most of you know, was maybe 7 at the time, and they had a kids section where they were encouraging the kids to write poems with their poetry prompts. And I kept going back every year. It's a wonderful fest. The last one we did, Robert Pinsky, three-time poet laureate? Yeah, 3-time poet laureate, was the star reader. And if anyone here knows Robert Pinsky, you may know his poem Shirt, that is about, his contemplation on shirts, but of course includes this big passage all about the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire, which of course, Robin Garr, thank you so much for keeping the tradition alive. Poetry at the Players was something a lot of my friends at Ganec have participated in. Megan Marad has been few. Hardy Phippen is a brilliant reader, really gave me a wonderful new understanding of, about to say Robert Benchley, that's not their name, sorry, not Robert Benchley, of Robert Browning, and the late great Lee Gelber was probably our most loyal non-player to come to Poetry at the Players every time we had a reading. His readings of W.H. Auden will tear your heart out. Just brilliant readings. Yeah, AJ has been a very steady attendee. Sorry, Kevin, I didn't.
Oh, I was just going to say that we asked Hardy, but unfortunately he's traveling, so he wasn't able to participate today, but he did send his best to participate.
Wonderful that he's able to travel. Yeah, well, he's definitely a great reader of poetry. And Hardy is one of those wonderful New York City tour guide trivia nuts who, if you say W.H. Auden, he can tell you that stands for Wystan Hugh Auden. He's very good about that sort of thing.
Yeah. Do you know if Whitman ever met Booth?
I don't know. And I'm going to assume that the answer is no, because I figure that if he had, I'd probably know. Because the club, the Players, has a historian, an official Players historian, who is a big Booth expert with whom I've had many conversations. And I cannot imagine talking with her without her mentioning a meeting of Whitman and Booth if it had happened. So I would assume that they never met, but I could be wrong.
So you both have mentioned how COVID sort of interrupted some of the programming that you're talking about. And I'm just curious, are there plans in the future to revive what's going on at the Players Club? And also, Stephanie, if you could talk, in some ways, this was a banner year for poetry. Louise Glick won the Nobel Prize for Literature. And then that whole phenomenon of Amanda Gorman's having not only the poem at the inauguration, but also the first poem I think that's ever been read at a Super Bowl, right? I mean, that's amazing. And so I think the poetry events may have been interrupted, but in some ways it was a really good year because, like you just read from Erica Jong, when you're losing people, when you're isolated and you're feeling these things, poetry is a natural place. So how has this affected your organizations or what you've been doing? What have you seen happening?
I will say firstly that the fact that Amanda Gorman has received the kind of reception, the public reception she's gotten, is extremely encouraging. It's really, really magnificent. The phrase star poet, I don't know if it's really exists since Lord Byron's day. So I think that's really, really great that the reception she's gotten. As for poetry at the Players, the answer is I simply don't know. Because I am on hiatus with my own membership, since I can't pay my dues because I have no work, I don't really know what the board and executive directors of the Players have in mind. Once that changes, I have to go back in October, if I don't want to lose my membership. That's how long an honorable withdrawal is allowed to last. I'll find out. I'll see what they have in mind. If they are open to it, the notion of reviving those bi-monthly readings, because we do now, we did and hope to again, always do them bi-monthly and try to get 7 in 1 year. So a little bit more than bi-monthly. I would love to see them revived, but I just don't know. I think that Stephanie probably has a lot more solid plans to be able to discuss, so I'll turn it over to her.
Absolutely. So, the New York City Poetry Festival is going to be our first attempt back at in-person events. And the reason that even felt appropriate to me like so soon is because it always has been this outdoor event on Governor's Island, which just happens to be like, a space where you can sort of like naturally socially distance. Our hope is that this fall we will bring our flagship event series, the Poetry Brothel, back for our very favorite month, October, Halloween month. And we will hopefully get to do our 14th annual masquerade event. But
Can you please tell us what the Poetry Brothel is?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I would love to. So the Poetry Brothel is an immersive literary cabaret. The Poetry Brothel is actually what the Poetry Society of New York kind of sprung out of. When I was a graduate student at the New School, I created this event series, and essentially it is like any other brothel that you may attend, only instead of the sex part, we sell private one-on-one intimate poetry readings. And so you get this sort of like live show on a stage that you can sit and watch, but then there are poets circulating through the audience the whole time, kind of luring you into back rooms with them. And yeah, the point of it is really to kind of highlight the intimacy of poetry and like offer an opportunity for humans to connect with one another in these sort of private spaces, and to do that over the written word. And so we're very much looking forward to bringing that back in person. But at the same time, I do feel as though this year has been really wonderful for the Poetry Brothel community in particular, because that event series is something that has sprouted to other cities throughout the world over the course of the 14 years that we've been producing it. And working with some of the poets in all of these other countries is not something that we've had a whole lot of opportunity to do. And over the past year, we've created many like multilingual performances with the Poetry Brothel chapters in Mexico City, in Bogota, in Barcelona, Paris. Actually, Matthew, when you were talking about Walt Whitman, so that fellow's name is actually John Farrell, and he ended up moving to Dublin the following year and founding the Dublin chapter of the Poetry Brothel. So we got to do a performance with him over this past year. And so I think moving forward, we're definitely going to be you know, doing kind of a hybrid of live events and also digital and streaming gatherings where we can bring the poetry community together on a more global scale. So
Great, thank you. I did want to mention that when I was researching this and reaching out to some other organizations as well, a lot of them are doing things online, but there are actually some other COVID, I don't know how else to put it, but fatalities for, like, the Poets House had to actually close, and I don't know if they're going to be able to open again. Some of you may know that organization down in the gosh,
Way downtown.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right across the little catty corner from the Irish Hunger Memorial.
Yes, exactly.
I love Poets House, and I didn't know that. I'm very sorry to hear you say. I had no
I
idea.
didn't know that either. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Wow.
They just had to make an economic decision that they, and hopefully they'll be able to regroup and reopen once things happen. But
They've been around for a long time.
yeah, they have been around a long time.
Yeah, not always in that location. Oh yes, Emma, thank you. Yes, on Vesey Street. But yeah, well, you mentioned, Kevin, a few minutes ago about how, you know, COVID times are a banner year for poetry. It was a very good point, and I do think that if there's one lesson we've learned, hopefully we've learned more than one, but if there's one lesson we've learned about the times in which we live, it is the power of Zoom and of the internet and such. We always knew that intellectually, but experiencing it has been really amazing because you know, as Stephanie says, you know, doing things that are a hybrid of live and online are so clearly the way to go. We've discovered the ability to reach an audience that we can't reach directly in person. I know a lot of people here at Ganec do work for New York Adventure Club. And, you know, the story, I think it was Bob Gilbert told me that, you know, he asked Corey once, you know, hey, how are you doing at Adventure Club right now? And of course, better than ever. You know, it's the most amazing. You know, instead of waiting for 20 people to show up to a walking tour, I got 200 people signing into a Zoom. You know, it's strange, but it is the takeaway, I think, from you know, when, as everyone says, no, we're not going back to normal. We're finding a new normal, and I think this is a very positive aspect of the new normal. Certainly, the aspect of poetry that has been very, very, you know, that I have flourished in during the pandemic has been my blog, because it's online, because I don't need to get together with anyone else to do it, you know, and it's, you know, a lot of my friends here know it's poetscorner.blog, one poet, one poem, one voice recording every day. I've been doing it since the beginning of 2019, but you know, I've had time to record well in advance, you know, for a lot of the selections. And by the way, Kevin, if you know some Chinese poets that you would like to hear that I haven't done, I would be very receptive to any requests or suggestions you may have, because, you know, Poets Corner does feature poets from all over the world, and from, you know, poets from, you know, BC to those who are alive and writing today.
Yeah, definitely. I will pass some on. And poets, not just from there, but, you know, poets are, like you say, from around the world. I'm a wide reader of poetry from other, you know, I love translations, actually. And I think that translations are just as much another art form in some ways. And so there are poems that I can't read in the original by, say, somebody like Cesar Vallejo, but they are just as meaningful to me almost as Emily Dickinson, right? Because even though it's not in my native language, the translation process and seeing the different translations can really impact the way that you sort of get into the imagination of the poem as a shared experience, not just as a private experience.
Very much so.
Well, and
that's
with
one
that,
of the great things about the Poetry Festival, the Poetry Festival on Governor's Island. It is the ultimate example of the shared experience. That is where you really realize it's something that I've believed in and loved for a while, you know, that we write alone, but we read together. And the poetry festival really is exemplary of that.
So I would love, I'm sorry, Stephanie.
I said, I just can't wait to do it again. I mean, like, it's what Matthew says about Zoom is so true. It's so amazing that we've gotten to, you know, find new audiences and connect on these global scales. But also it's just like, do you remember in-person events, gatherings, the like voices floating through the trees on Governor's Island? Oh, it's going to be amazing. Sorry. That's all.
So would you guys like to share either a poem that you've written or a poem that you love that's related to New York City, or a New York poet that you love?
I'm ready.
Do it, Matthew.
Okay, because I have devoted so much of my time and energy in recent years to interpreting the poetry of others, I actually very rarely have the occasion to read work of my own. So when you mentioned that, Kevin, I'm like, I'm going to read one of my pieces. So this is one I wrote about 25 years ago, and it's called The God of Washington Square. The dancing stops. He lowers his horn and rests his long black fingertips. For one eternal instant, there is silence underneath his tree. And then, like thunder through the streets, the hands of all the watchers gallop together in ecstatic joy. But the thunder of the hands is drowned and overpowered by his laughter, the deep Jamaican bell that tolls with glee and unabashed merriment. He is called the God of Washington Square, a name some say he gave himself. Some say he is a day-lit ghost, for none have ever seen him leave at night nor enter in the day, nor none have seen him sleep or eat or aught but play his melodies unearthly in their tones. In depth and richness and of their harmony, it seems the very meaning of love, the stuff of life, has here been set to magic music. As he takes the trumpet up again to play his perfect passion, everyone falls dumb. The sound speaks to the multitude. The trumpet tells a tale of all the men and women who dream of heaven. The music makes it known that there is glory in the ordinary. He plays a song and heals a heart. He gives a hope and makes a hero. He forges faith. He cures a woe. He is the God of Washington Square. He is and always shall be so.
Well, thank you. That was great. Yes.
Love it.
And I have to, you know, Fred Flancer actually, he posted something. It only went to the panelists, but when you were reading that, what he posted, and he said, Bob Dylan hasn't been mentioned. And because you're in Washington Square, there is this nice little sort of way to see that in conversation with maybe Mr. Tambourine Man, which is what he was quoting there. So thank you for sharing that with us. That was great.
Thank you. I absolutely have to mention, I saw Emma snapping. And of course, the tradition of snapping was born right here in New York City, in Greenwich Village, not far from Washington Square, because Greenwich Village is this dense residential neighborhood. You know, whether it was jazz or poetry or whatnot, all the coffee house performances, people would applaud and the neighbors would call the police for noise violations. So in order to avoid getting shut down, the coffee houses would tell their patrons, instead of clapping, snap, because it's quieter. And now that's become a tradition. And now the same people who used to call the cops on the Bohemian poets are like, those beatniks are so weird. They're snapping all the time. Like, we're doing that for you, buddy.
It's great to know. Stephanie, how would you like to share something with us?
Yeah, I would. So I'm going to share something by my late mentor, Paul Violi. He taught me at the New School. He taught me so much of what I know about poetry. And I remember the year that I applied to graduate school at the New School, this poem of his had appeared in Best American Poetry. And I remember reading it and being like, oh, I want to move to New York City and be a poet. So, and I think this is something that pretty much anyone who has lived here can relate to. It's called Counterman. What'll it be? Roast beef on rye with tomato and mayo. What do you want on it? A swipe of mayo, pepper, but no salt. You got it. Roast beef on rye. You want lettuce on that? No, just tomato and mayo. Tomato and mayo. You got it. Salt and pepper? No salt, just a little bit of pepper. You got it. No salt. You want tomato? Yes, tomato. No lettuce. No lettuce, you got it. No salt, right? Right, no salt. You got it. Pickle? No, no pickle. Just tomato and mayo and pepper. Pepper. Yes, a little pepper, right? A little pepper, no pickle, right? No pickle. You got it. Next, roast beef on whole wheat, please, with lettuce, mayonnaise, and a center slice of beefsteak tomato. The lettuce splayed, if you will, in a Beaux-Arts derivative of classical acanthus, and the roast beef, thinly sliced, folded in a multi-foil arrangement that eschews Bragdonian pretensions or any idea of divine geometric projection for that matter, but simply provides a setting for the tomato to form a medallion with a dab of mayonnaise as a fleuron. And as eclectic as this may sound, if the mayonnaise could also be applied along the crust in a Vitruvian scroll and as a festoon below the medallion, that would be swell. You mean like in the Cathedral Saint-Pierre in Geneva? Yes, but the swag more like the one below the rosette at the Royal Palace in Amsterdam. You got it. Next.
That's great. Very funny. Were you also a student of David Lehman?
I was, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that humor. Yeah, that very. I was going to choose actually an Ashbery poem because, as much as I think he had an outsized influence on when he was alive, for me, he is that quintessential New York poet, and I can hear in Paul Viola that sort of Kenneth Koch, and it's really
Totally.
great. But I wanted to read a poem with you guys from a poet that I don't think gets enough attention. His name is Kenneth Fearing, actually. Some of you might actually know him better as a writer of novels. He wrote The Big Clock, which you mentioned John Farrow, another John Farrow, Mio Farrow's father was the director. He wrote The Big Clock, the novel that movie was based on. So if we have any film noir fans, you'll immediately know that particular movie, I'm sure. But the reason I wanted to read a poem by him and share it with all of you guys is I recently went to the Alice Neal exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I knew nothing about Alice Neal actually, and I was blown away. I mean, this is really a New York artist. So I urge all of you guys to get up there to see that. And one of the she's a portrait artist, and she did a lot of portraits of especially pregnant women and children from her neighborhood, which was Spanish Harlem. But she also was friends with a lot of writers, including Kenneth Fearing, because he was married to he's sort of the poet of the Depression era. And so you'll hear that very noirish style in this poem. It's just called Manhattan. Deep city, tall city, worn city, switchboard weaving what ghost horizons, who commands this cable, who escapes from this net, who shoulders in this web, cold furnace in the sky, guardian of this man's youth, graveyard of the other's, jailer of mine, harassed city, city knowing and naive, gay in the theaters, wary in the offices, starved in the tenements, city ageless in the hospital delivery rooms, and always too old or too young in the echoing morgues. City for sale, for rent, 5 rooms, the former tenant's mattress still warm is leaning on the van downstairs. Move in. Here are the keys to the mailbox, the apartment, and the outside door. It is yours, all yours, this city, this street, this house designed by a famous architect. You would know the name at once. This house where the suicide lived, perhaps this floor, this room that reflects the drugstore's neon light. Here where the Wall Street clerk, the engineer, the socialist, the music teacher all lived by turns. Move in, arrange the furniture and live. Go in the morning to return at night. Relax, plan, struggle, succeed. Watch the snow fall and hear the rain beat. Know the liner's voice, see the evening plane, a star among stars. Go north at the scheduled hour. Make so many phone calls in the foyer again. Have so many business talks in the living room. There will be cocktails, cards, in the radio, adultery again, downtown, vomit again in the bath. Scenes, hysterics, peace. Live, and then move out. Go with the worn cabinets and rugs all piled on the curb while the city passes and the incoming tenant unknown to you awaits. Yes, go, but remember that year, that season. Do you? Do you, city within city, sealed fortress within fortress, island within enchanted island? Do you, there outside the stationer's shop, still hear gunfire and instant death on winter nights, still see on bright spring's afternoons a thin gray figure crumple to the walk in the park? Who stared, who shrugged and went home, who stayed and shivered while the ambulance arrived, let the spirit go free, ship the body west. Do you remember that? Do you? Do you remember the missing judge, the big shot spender and the $100 bills? Did he do 3 years? The ball game of ball games, the 4th in the series, or was that the 6th? The reform party and the gambling cleanup, a 10-day laugh. The returning champion, what about it? The abortion, so what? The rape, who cares? The paralyzed newsboy, the taxi driver who studied dramatics, the honest counterman, the salesman in love with the aviator's wife, the day at the zoo, the evening in the park, the perfect girl, the funny little guy with the funny little face. City, 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 eye without vision, light without warmth, voice without mind, pulse without flesh, mirror and gateway, mirage, cloud against the sun. Do you remember that year, that season, that day, that hour, that name, that face? Do you remember? Only the day fulfilled as it burns in the million windows in the west, only the promise of the day returning as it flames on the roofs and spires and steeples of the east. Not as funny as yours, but still a version of Manhattan, I think.
So good.
Well, this has been great. So Emma shared a Dufu poem, which is
That's actually from Hermit. That's from Hermit Wang. He shared that.
Okay, I was going to say, good for you. Yeah.
I did not share that. I shared one from the MTA, so that was Hermit.
But he said Shakespeare is the greatest poet. Emily and Dufu are right there by him, so in my opinion. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. Thank you so much, Matt. This has been great. And thank you all of the members for sharing your poems and your some of your favorite places. And I hope that you'll be out on Governor's Island to celebrate. Can you tell us the dates again? July?
Yes, July 24th and 25th.
Great.
So,
And the fundraiser gala?
that is April 23rd.
Right.
Yeah. Thank
Great.
you so
April
much for having
23rd,
me.
July 24th and 25th possible.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, and the fundraiser gala will be super fun. Terrence Hayes is going to be speaking in case anybody wants to join.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's very cute, just so you guys know.
I put the website for the Poetry Society and for the brothel in the chat. I didn't have a link up. I apologize for the fundraiser gala. So if you have one, let's put it in the chat so people have access.
Got it.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you. And I just love the idea of a poetry brothel and having somebody read to you. I mean, reading to people is so wonderful. And I actually have a good friend of mine. He's moved out of the country, he retired, and we've been reading books together, and we'd sometimes read them to each other, but it's just on FaceTime. But still, the act of reading to somebody or having somebody read to you is just wonderful. So and I loved hearing you all recite your poems, the poems that you selected, the poems that you wrote. I mean, it was just fantastic. And I love music, and so I love hearing the musicality in the spoken word. So thank you so much. It was really, really a wonderful, wonderful program. And it's nice to do something different. It's nice to do something really, really different every so often. So thank you. And thank you, Kevin, and the Education Committee for arranging this. And Kevin, you're a great, great host. Does anyone have any questions for Stephanie while she's still here? Anyone have any questions they'd like to include in the chat just for last minute or so while we're on? Anyone have questions?
I can testify that the poetry brothel is wonderful. And the writers who are part of it are the best writers at the fest. And that's no reflection on the others. They're just that good.
Yeah, they're so good. I'm partial, but they're just some of the best poets in the city. So I hope y'all can come and join us in the fall. That would be beautiful.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Kevin,
Christy did ask a question, any tips or stories on how poetry has been uniquely or effectively inserted in tours? I just want to say that I gave a poetry tour one time in the Village. It's a very self-selecting audience. And one of the people who decided to be on that tour, I think, wrote an unpublished dissertation on Allen Ginsberg, and the whole thing became about Allen Ginsberg. And it was sometimes, as you can see, people have passion for poetry, and it can be a little overwhelming if you have too much of a passion. But it's just a humorous story that I remember.
Yeah. There's always that worry of having travelers who know your subject better than you do. At least that's a big nightmare of mine. But yeah, the inserting of poetry on a tour, to me personally, comes very naturally, especially if you are in front of, if you're on Bedford Street and you're in front of the narrow, apartment. Bring out some Edna St. Vincent Millay. She was there. It becomes a simple thing to do. The White Horse Tavern, Dylan Thomas. You obviously, like any material, you relate it to the place where you are. It's why we're called sightseeing guides. But I do the entire Emma Lazarus sonnet. I don't just do the famous ending part, because there's parts in the first half that no one ever quotes that I think are gorgeous. And I always do that on Liberty Island. So yeah, look for where it's comfortable and makes sense. It feels forced, it probably is. So find a spot where it doesn't.
Yeah, very good advice. Thank you, Matt. And yes, you're right. The whole sonnet is wonderful, and I just like that it's a sonnet, which is such a great form of poem, such a great form of poem. So yeah, Kevin.
I'm giving a plug in. The American Jewish Historical Society, I think I'm getting their name right, but that Jewish Historical Society, Ganec has actually had meetings there in Chelsea. I forget, I think it's on
16th Street, 16th and between 5th and 6th. Yeah.
So they actually have an Emma Lazarus exhibit right now, because they have the original manuscript, and they have her drawing room, her sitting room out there and everything. And they have a whole project that's going on about Jewish American history, immigrant history. And so you might want to check that out as well.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, again for coming. You are very welcome to stay for the rest of our meeting. We're going to have committee reports, which is very entertaining at times too. So and we get a lot done. So you're welcome to stay. And of course, you're welcome to, to hang out, or I can just put you as an attendee and you can just listen and not be on screen anymore. So it's as you wish, or you just.
Well, I might jump out.
Okay.
But it's been so fun getting to know all of you, and thank you for having me. And I hope to see some of you at the festival this summer. So.
Oh yes, definitely. Thanks again. Thanks so much for coming. Okay. All right. So we're going to move on now. And thanks again, Kevin. This was a lot of fun. We're going to move on now to our committee reports. Okay. And so our first committee report will be from certification. So let me just find Michael Dillinger and bring him on screen. Just a moment. Okay. So Michael should be coming here in a moment to give his report from certification. And let's see, is he in? Oh, not coming up yet. Oh, there we go. Okay, Michael, you're all set.
Okay, just a moment. I will be with you. I have a new computer. I don't know if it's working properly. Can you hear me?
We can hear you just fine. I like your green screen. That just
Yeah, obviously the backdrop is not working because again, the new computer, you still got to give all those weird permissions. And yeah, I had to get a new one as of yesterday because my other one was dying. So anyway, thank you so much and happy spring to everybody. This is the weather's been just gorgeous and we're really excited at Certification Committee. We've been working over the last year to revise the program and to set it up as an online learning program, which includes, of course, live interaction as well through Zoom sessions. And we are finally ready. We are going to pull the pin, as they say, and registration should open tomorrow. There will be an email going out from Ganec with all of the details. Essentially, the program is running from the end of April through about the middle of June, and then finals are at the end of June. At the very end of June, there'll be a final session where participants present their finals. It's a really exciting program. It does contain a bit of work that we'll be sharing more information about that as we go along, but you'll see in the email, it lists all of the different Zoom sessions that are going on. There are also in-person practicums. There are 3 of them that are part of it. And it's a very, very exciting program. We're test running it right now with a group of volunteers, and the volunteers came from people who had previously taken the certification program. We need to get some of their input to see what was working and what wasn't, and we're so grateful for that. So look for that tomorrow. The cost is the same as it has been in the past. It's $300. We've spent a lot of money in terms of using this online learning program and getting all the materials together and stuff, but I think you'll find it well worth it. And I just want to put in a plug that one of the things you do in the program is the program is built around you creating a new tour. And I have to say that out of the past classes, we have something like 7 or 8 previous graduates who have not only created a tour, but have sold it and have made money on it. So it is actually an opportunity to really perfect a tour and then actually be able to go out and offer it for visitors. And I said there's like 7 or 8 that have done it already, and it's very, very exciting to see that. So look for the registration. It'll have all the information about when the Zoom sessions are, and really look at your calendar before committing, because we do expect you to cover all of the sessions. If you can't, if something comes up, then your certification would be delayed until you could make up the part that you missed. Another exciting development that we've come up with is we're looking at a way for it. We've been asked by previous participants who have done an earlier version of the program if they could audit the program and if there was going to be a way to do that. And the committee is working on that right now, and we may actually be able to announce that in another week or so. We would still give priority to new participants, but if there was space open, we would allow this audit. There would be a fee, but it would be significantly lowered for those who are already certified. And of course, there would be gaining points for their continued certification maintenance. So we're really excited about all of this. We're excited about getting this program up and running, and we hope we'll see some of you participating. I know several people have reached out already, have sent emails saying, when can I register? Starting tomorrow, you can register. So watch your Ganec email. So if anyone's got any questions, I'm happy to answer them either now or via email, certification@ganec.org. You can send your questions there as well. certification@ganec.org, and come on and play with us. It's going to be a great time.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, and Kevin and I just put the email for certification into the chat. Does anyone have any questions for Michael while he's on right now? Please put them in the chat. You can also type them in later and Michael will see them through the meeting and he can respond in the chat itself. But yes, email certification at ganec.org. And thank you so much. I know you guys have been having lots and lots of meetings and working really hard on it. So
almost every week for the last year, we put a year effort into this. It's really been incredible. And and before I forget, thank you. I want to thank all of the committee members. We have Robin Gar, we've got Patrick Casey, we've got Kevin Lawrence, we've got Jonathan Turr, we've got Nina Mende, we've got Kit Garrett, and who am I missing, Patrick?
Billy.
Billy Nemec. How could I forget Billy? Thank you, Kevin. Yes, a great team, and they have done so much work on behalf of Ganec. We wouldn't have this great program without each and every one of them, and they've done a tremendous job for us. So thank you all.
yes, thank you, committee members. It's outstanding what you're doing, and yeah, and I'm one of the guides who wrote a tour for my final project. I've
And
sold the tour, and I've been giving it like every month since May practically, just every month as a virtual tour. It translated into a virtual tour too. So thank you, certification committee. It definitely I learned well from the masters. So thank you all so much. All right, so thank you, Michael. I'm going to take you off now, and I'm going to bring Nina on. Hold on a moment. I've got Nina up here first. Hold on, let me bring her as a panelist. There we go. And then Michael, I'm going to put you back as an attendee. So thank you so much. Bye.
Get me out of here.
It's coming. It's going to do it. All right. So Nina should be coming on. There she is. All right, Nina. So you can unmute yourself and you're ready to go. Just a moment.
To speak.
There we go. We can hear you. We cannot see
You can hear me? Oh, okay.
Mhm. Oh, now we can't hear you and we cannot see you either.
Oh, okay. Wait, okay, there I go.
Yep.
I'm keep on pressing the video. Oh, and it keeps going back, but can you hear me?
We can hear you. Try touching
Okay.
it one more time. And there we
Yeah,
go.
okay, there it is. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so this is the education report. I want to thank all last month was Women's History Month, and we had a great showing of women doing tours. And Emma, you did a great tour, Women's Works, Female Artists of the Metropolitan Museum of Art. And we had Lee Hallingby doing the Audubon Mural Project. And we also have, of course, had Robin Gar doing a special tour, Triangle Shirtwaist Memorial Tour, Shirtwaist Fire Memorial Tour, and a virtual tour of the same tour. And John Semlak, A Taste of Borscht, and then Joe Savlak did Lower West Side Immigration, Diversity, Integration, and Displacement. And Joe only takes about 5 people on his tour because of a pandemic. And so if you miss that tour, tomorrow to Friday is an encore, April 9th. Today was an encore. So if he has some space, he's happy to do his tour over and over again. And you do Joe Savlak at live.com. Now, coming up, we have something exciting. And if John's around, I think he'll report on this. April 13th, we're going to do another education multilingual guide collaboration. And this time it's going to be with the Kiev Guides Association. And John will report on that in detail. It's coming up April 13th, and it's going to be a virtual program. So, and also coming up April 29th, Italian Theater, 1805 to 1940. It's a virtual walk through stories, buildings, and plays. And this is a virtual tour with Laura Caparati, who's also an actor, a director. I don't know if she's a playwright too, but triple threat. And the East Village Music Venues is going to be May 22nd of the 70s, 1970s, long gone but not forgotten, with Ann McDermott. And that's going to be an in-person tour. I think there's limited to 8 people, but perhaps Ann will do an encore for us, or you'll be able to contact Ann and she'll could arrange a private tour with Ganec members if they're interested. So that's coming up. And of course, every month, maybe Kevin can tell us what the next book of the month is going to be. I think you're still doing this. Every month, the last Sunday of the month, there is a virtual book club meeting that was started by Kevin, and he keeps doing it, which is great. And I don't know what the theme is, but he will chime in. And of course, we have guests. Thanks for the guest speaker program, Kevin and Matt, and all the people who put it together. And if you have an idea for guest speakers, just contact education@ganec.org. We're going to be having a meeting coming up on April 14th, where we'll be discussing programming. And so if you have some ideas, if you have an idea for a FAM tour or a professional development program, we have a link on our website, and you just fill out that link, submit it to us. We usually default to yes, but you have to, give us a date and kind of give us some details so we can look it over, see if there are any questions we may have. So I guess that's about it. If anyone has any questions, fine. And I just want to say, we have a great team of people on the Education Committee, and Bob Gelber and Demery Wilcox, John Semla, Kevin Lawrence, Lisa Puccio, Minishar, Susan Birnbaum, Andrea Coral Emeritus, Maggie Brown, and Kit Garrett sometimes offer their suggestions or with us. Looking forward to seeing tours from you. And don't be shy. If you have something you want to develop, we're very open to someone just starting out, and we can help you, give you some feedback. If you want to try your wings before, like a dress rehearsal before you have a gig, this is FAM tours are for your benefit.
Okay, Nina, there was one question about the April 13th Kiev session. Is it going to be in English, or will there be a translation as the session is being done?
Well, I think it's going to be in English, as far as I know.
I will address that in part, but it will be in English.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, great.
And it's going to be virtual, right, John? You're doing it virtual.
Yeah,
virtual.
I'll cover it. More.
Yeah, he's going to go into detail.
Okay, yeah, I think John will talk about it because it's a bridging education and multilingual. Okay, yes, and Kit Garrett points out, of course, the Education Committee doing PDPs are on professional development programs, and Kevin has the book up. What is the book?
February House, Cheryl Tippin. So if you want to know about W.H. Auden, Carson McCullers, all that, great. So February House, 7 Mid-Aw Street, no longer there, but we're going to read that book. I'll put information in the chat.
Perfect, great. Thank you.
And we're working on a resume writing PDP. I finally made contact with a couple of people, so that's in the offing. So
Great. Well, Nina, education always does such a wonderful job. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. So I'm going to change Nina back to an attendee, and I'm going to bring on, thank you, Nina. I'm going to bring on our next committee chair, who is going to be Michael Morgenthau, who's already here. So I don't have to do that. So go for it, Mike. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma, and thank you everybody else who came before. So my report might be a touch longer than normal tonight. I hope you guys can hang in there. But first, I want to say thanks to all of our committee members who attended our last meeting, March 25th. Our next committee meeting will be a week from tomorrow, April 15th. If anybody's interested in joining the Industry Relations Committee, shoot me an email at industryrelations@ganec.org. Now, after a couple of months of hinting at it, we are finally ready to unveil the, at least the first version of the Ganec Guide Week website. So I'm going to share, actually, before I do that, and 1 second. I'm sharing my screen, but you can also, I've now put the website in the chat room as well. So just wanted to do a quick overview, and there's Ibrahima pointing the way for us. So for those of you who don't know, we are planning a virtual event called Ganec Guide Week 2021. Hopefully it will not be the last. And as you can see from the description here, it's 3 days of virtual education, recruitment, and networking focused on empowering local guides around the world. And it's the first virtual event that specifically focuses on the needs of local guides. Now, don't get scared when it says guides around the world. Ganec guides are first among equals when it comes to Guide Week, and we will talk about that in just a second. So as you can see here, our educational sessions will be May 3rd and 4th, and we're going to have a recruitment day, which is basically standing in for our job fair, which we haven't had since September of 2019 on May 7th. So first things first, we are doing this to set you up for success, for the recovery of tour guiding, which it sounds like is already starting to happen, which is amazing. I know I've given a couple of in-person tours, and it's so gratifying to hear so many other people starting to give in-person tours. But coming to Guide Week will help you to set up for even more success moving forward. So we have basically finalized our 10. Before I do that, we have a keynote speaker. We're very, very excited to have this speaker kick things off for us on Monday, May 3rd. Abita Turquoise Robinson, and she's the founder of the Nomadness Travel Tribe, which is an online social community primarily for travelers of color. And as you can see there, they're up to 25,000 international members. And she has lots of other accolades, including being named one of the 21 most visionary women throughout travel history by National Geographic. And she's a really dynamic speaker. So we think she's got a great story to tell, and one that'll inspire us as we start to get back out there and giving tours. We then have 10 sessions that we've zoomed in on, and I'll just read through them real quick. Platforms for success, identifying the proper booking software for your tours and utilizing all the tours they offer. Passive income streams, monetizing skills beyond just giving tours. A website makeover and why it matters. We're going to do a case study with that. We're going to talk about virtual tours, but in a different way. How are virtual tours going to change in a world that now has to once again compete with live in-person tours? Beyond the next tour, building a business plan for long-term success. Large groups, from large groups to luxury, how to price your tour correctly. Are you a brand? Building your social media presence. And that's going to be a little bit more than just how to build your presence on social media. It's how to capitalize on building your presence on social media. Marketing for tour guides, identifying and targeting your ideal clients using data. Designing fresh, immersive tours and keeping them that way. I know that a lot of us fall victim to not updating our tours on a regular basis. So this will help you kind of get inspiration for that. And then last but not least, guides as a force for change, understanding your impact from storytelling to water bottles and everything in between. So that's about over-tourism and environmental impacts and COVID and social responsibility and storytelling and things like that. So some of these sessions will be everybody in the at Guide Week will attend them all at once. Some of them will be divided up into 2 concurrent running sessions, but everything's going to be recorded. So if 2 of the sessions that you want to attend are running concurrently, you'll be able to view the other one afterwards via the recording. So don't fret if there's something you can't get to. Before I get to the recruitment side of things, I do want to mention how much this is going to cost. So as I mentioned, Ganec members are first among equals when it comes to this. So $20 for Ganec members, $30 for members of any professional tour guide association anywhere in the world, but we're focusing largely on the Americas because of the time change or time zones. And then $40 for any tour guides or directors not affiliated with a tour association, and the general public, if there happens to be anybody who's interested in maybe becoming a tour guide. So now, registration is going to open on April 15th. You can see the button right there, and this is the website to come to register. So we will send out email blasts about this. Don't worry, you don't have to remember any of this, but I just wanted to share it with all of you guys. Now, as far as the job fair part of things, you can see the registration process here. You will pay. If you register, you'll pay to register for your attendance. And by the way, that fee is for all 3 days. So it is not per day or anything like that. That fee is for all 3 days of the event, and we think it's quite a bargain to offer to everybody. And we've been putting a lot of work in. I forgot to mention, Big thanks to Mitch Bach, our member and industry partner with the Trip School, who has done all the web design, and also to Nikki Padilla, who runs a tour training site called Trip Kinetics. And together, the three of us have been meeting 2 or 3 times a week to really get all of this hashed out and to also start getting panelists. And I want to say thank you in particular. By the way, the panelists are going to be from all over the world, industry experts, as well as GANYC members and guides. So I want to say a particular thank you to Patrick Von Rosendahl and Gary Dennis, who have agreed to participate, as well as industry partners, New York Adventure Club and Big Onion Tours. And there could be some more coming down the pike as well. So a quick note about the job fair. We are actively recruiting tour operators, DMCs, receptives, online marketplaces, and others, and we'll be unveiling who is participating, hopefully by April 15th, and adding new names as we go. But as part of your registration, you'll have to create an account on the platform we're using, which is called Campfire. This is being developed by Mitch and Trip School. And just as an FYI, it's going to be much more than just the 3 days of Guide Week. They're going to be posting all sorts of resources for tour guides, not just in New York, but all across the country and all across the world moving forward. Some of that content will be available for free. Some of it will be, you'll have to pay additional, but it's going to be a really great resource. And so this is, we're almost getting in on the front door. You know, if you register for the event, you'll be amongst the first to actually be registered on the Campfire site. As part of that, you'll be asked to fill out a profile that recruiters will be able to browse. So people from the tour operators will be able to browse through. Please do this by April 28th at the latest. What will then happen is the people from the tour operators will be able to look at all the profiles and identify who they want to talk to. And they will send out a notice, and you'll be able to see what time frame is available to you. If anybody has used the scheduling website Calendly, it's going to be similar to that, where you'll see all the available time slots, and you'll be able to click on a time to go in and schedule your appointment with said tour operator. Now, it is up to the individual tour operators if they are going to set up one-on-one meetings or meetings with multiple people at the same time. Certainly with Zoom, we have the capability to do that. And by the way, we're encouraging all the tour operators to use Zoom for these interactions, but some of them might use other platforms, and they will notify you of that once an item is scheduled. So kind of be on the lookout for that. So we're really, really excited. We think it's going to be a great event for Ganec and a great event for tour guides, both here in New York and all around the country and all around the world. And a lot more information is going to start coming out in the next week to 10 days. So please stay tuned for that. And I think I can stop sharing my screen at this point. But certainly feel free. The site is live. Visit it whenever whenever you have a chance. And like I said, more email addresses will, more information will be coming out as it's available. So, but April 15th is the date that we're planning to open registration. And after I'm done with my report, if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer any of the questions. But we have a few other items we want to get to on behalf of the Industry Relations Committee. Emma mentioned this in her opening remarks, but tour your own city. We did send out an email to every single Ganec member on March 26th, asking you guys to update your tours, and even more importantly, add new tours, because we want to start promoting Tour Your Own City again. I think we've seen a lot of people are starting to give tours. A lot of those people are locals who are attending the tours. So now is the perfect time for us to capitalize on this. We sent out this email blast and we got exactly one response. Somebody asking to update a little information on one of his tours. And so we'd love to have more tour inventory. We'd love to have updates on your tours if necessary. I will add one small caveat to something that Emma said. If it's a little grammatical change or something like that, we have to make all those changes manually. So we want kind of more of changes on major stuff, like if the title of your tour has changed, if the dates have changed, if the capacity has changed, things like that. But also we want you guys to add more and more tours. And we're planning on doing more social media promotion. We're looking at paid content as promotion for Tour Your Own City. And also we want to issue another press release as well. But if we don't have a new story to tell, there's kind of not much to put in the press release. So please, please, please add more tours. I will make sure that that email blast is resent at some point this week so that you guys can reference that as well. So I hope that that encourages you guys to add to your Tour Your Own City listings, or perhaps you didn't have tours to offer in the fall, but you have tours now to offer in the spring. That would be wonderful. Industry Partner Program 2.0, not going to spend a lot of time on this. We have been working on it, and we're just trying to iron out a few kinks in terms of having the industry partners register on Wild Apricot, getting their passwords, and then being able to update their profiles on the site. We're hoping this will launch during Guide Week, if not before. So stay tuned for that. Two other quick things, both related to NYC and company. I think we posted information about this, but I want to kind of to give some more information. NYC and Company right now through the end of 2021 is running a campaign called the All In Neighborhoods campaign. And anybody can add their offerings to this campaign. You do not have to be a member of NYC and Company. You do not have to be necessarily a member of Ganec, and you would not be doing it under the umbrella of Ganec's membership in NYC and Company. And I will, after my report, I'll put the link in the chat room for this. It's a long one, so it would take me a second or two to cut and paste it while I'm talking to you guys. But if you are not a member of NYC and Company, you just have to fill out a registration form. And it's all about promoting neighborhoods. So it really dovetails very nicely with Tour Your Own City, and also everything that you can, neighborhoody in terms of having locals come and experience the greatness that is New York City. They are hoping that people will offer discounts as part of that program, but it is not mandatory as to participate in that program. We did list Tour Your Own City on there, so feel free to take advantage of that. And that program's gonna be up and running through the end of 2021. It's free publicity for your tours, so there's really no reason not to sign up. And if you're already a member with your tour company, it's even easier to get your tours listed there. And the last item I wanted to mention, and I know I've been taking up a lot of time, right before this meeting, I represented Ganec on a Zoom call with NYC and Company's coalition, allied Coalition for Tourism Recovery, which Ganec has been a charter member of since NYC and Company launched it in 2020. Lots of different things were discussed. We even had Chuck Schumer come and address us, which was really interesting. He detailed a lot of the elements of the stimulus package that will directly benefit tourism in the city, and also mentioned how there's enough money for New York City and New York State to cover its budget deficits right now. So don't let local officials tell you there's no money in the budget for that if you have any questions about that. He also recounted his experience on January 6th, which was pretty interesting. He called it the best of times and the worst of times. But in any event, the thing that two things that came out of this meeting that I wanted to pass along to you. One is really encouraging. One of the officials from the Port Authority said Easter weekend 2021 saw a 1,000% increase in airport passengers coming through New York compared to Easter weekend of 2020. Now, that's probably not a huge surprise since literally nobody was traveling back in April of 2020, but it's still an encouraging sign. The other thing I wanted to mention is they had state officials on there talking about the Excelsior Pass. And I just want to offer this caveat. This is not an endorsement by Ganec of the Excelsior Pass. We know that there is some people have some concerns about it from privacy and other standpoints, but I just wanted to share with you what was passed along to me, and it might be to us at the meeting, and it might be interesting for you. So the Excelsior Pass is New York State's system for proving that you have either been vaccinated or that you have received a negative COVID test. And the idea is for businesses such as arenas, museums, perhaps even restaurants, to be able to verify very quickly who is not COVID positive. So I know there's been some misperceptions out there that this is only an app for your phone. Not true at all. And in fact, to prove it, I actually went and printed out my Excelsior Pass just during the meeting while everybody was reading beautiful poems about New York. I printed my Excelsior Pass. So if you don't want an app on your phone, you can just print this and have it in your wallet. And this is not just for when you're on tour, but just in your personal life around New York City as well. But the app is also really easy and quick to use. And it's going to become more and more prevalent in New York City. So it's a good idea if you're, perhaps if your tour patronizes museums or restaurants or any other attraction, to have it on your phone and to encourage your guests to download it as well if they're from New York State. Now that brings up the next point. They are working on making this regional. They are in conversations with representatives from New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and perhaps even states a little further from that to be able to show this. So perhaps tour operators might start utilizing this as well. Right now it's available in English and Spanish. They are looking to add more languages as well. Excuse me one second. Let me just check my notes to see if there's anything else I wanted to mention. I think that was it. So like I said, not a Ganec endorsement, but I just wanted to pass along the information because it's one more arrow in our quiver to think about as we're getting back out there to touring, and also make your life easier just as a New York area resident. So with that, I'm sure there might be some questions, so I'm happy to address any questions that came up.
Yes. Yes, so there, so Nick had a question in the Q&A. What is the limit on the number of attendees for Guide Week?
We will take as many who want to come. There is no limit whatsoever. There might be some capacity issues when it comes to the job fair, but that's going to be up to the individual tour operators. That is not up to us. So they will make their schedule available. I would encourage you, if you are invited to interview with that tour operator, to schedule yourself as quickly as possible, because we have no way of knowing, you know, what capacity they're going to allow. One thing I forgot to mention as well, in addition to tour operators and receptives and DMCs and attractions, we're also going to have OTAs and reservation technology companies there as well. You'll be able to set up appointments with them if you're interested in perhaps utilizing their services for your tours. So it's not just going to be the tour operators, it's going to be kind of a lot of different segments that make up the tour guiding industry.
Great. Okay, so I'm just looking, I'm just finding them in the chat for you, Michael.
Okay.
Kit asks, are you promoting this Guide Week to the international and national tour guides, since it is recorded and they can watch on demand?
Yes, as it says on the website, this is open to anybody and everybody. So Ganec is first among equals, but it will be promoted heavily. We have plans to promote it through the NFTGA, perhaps through the WFTGA, to encourage their member associations to have their guides join in with us. And of course, we're also going to use the big megaphone that is Mitch Bach and Trip School to get the word out to tour guides all across the country and all across the world.
Now, this actually made me think of a question. So if, does somebody have to be registered and able to access the recording?
Yes, it's only going to be available as far, yes, in order to access the recordings, you need to register and pay because there is some cost involved in us putting this on. So yes, if you're interested, you should definitely pay in advance. Even if you can't attend, you can then watch the recordings at your leisure.
Great. Great, thank you. I think that was it. There's some questions about the Excelsior Pass, but some people put the answers already in chat. And yeah, I mean, Mike, you've just been working like a madman these past couple weeks. So yeah, big applause. Lots of snaps for Mike Morgenthau, because he's been literally on meetings. I get notices, you know, when people sign into meetings, and it's like, oh, Mike's in a meeting. Oh, Mike's in a meeting. So thank you, Mike. Thank you.
I saw one other question from Kit that said the app was only valid for 28 days. Have they fixed that? I can tell you on my registration, I'm fortunate enough to have both my shots. So you can download this. You can get this QR code once you're past the 14-day window after your last COVID shot, whether it's, you know, the 2-shot or 1-shot system. And this says this is valid until September 13th. So it seems like they have fixed that.
Cool. Great. Well, I hope they reach out to Jersey and Connecticut, and I can get my family and all of us onto that too. So that's really good. So thank you very much, Mike. Yes, and Mike Grant says, "For he's a jolly good fellow." Very good. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, and if anyone has other questions, just pop them into the chat. Mike is here. He will be able to see them. All right. So let me just get Derek onto the meeting now. He will come on to give us an update on membership. Okay, so as soon as he comes in, we'll let him. Okay, here we go. Derek, you're on.
Hello, everybody. It's Derek Chan, your membership committee chair. And as always, I do want to extend a special welcome to all of our first-time viewers, whether you're here now or maybe in the future viewing this as a recording, and wherever you happen to be, either in New York or anywhere around the world. It's always we're always happy that you're here with us. I do also want to extend a special welcome to all of our regular viewers. We're also happy that you're here with us as well. And if you're not a member and are interested in becoming one, it's very easy to do so. Everything is done online. Now you can just go to ganec.org/membership, and all the requirements and the link to apply are listed online. We do have 2 new provisional members who've recently joined our organization. So welcome to Butra Ben Youssef and Melissa Corrigan. That now brings our current active Ganec membership up to 312 members. And if you do have any questions about your membership benefits, about where to go for anything really, everything is listed online on our website. There's a special website for our members. It's ganec.org/benefits. You can also feel free to reach out to me and the committee. You can email me. The email address is membership@ganec.org. Happy to answer questions now or, of course, later via email as well. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you so much, Derek. And of course, yes, welcome to our new provisional members, and anyone who is joining us who may be interested in joining Ganec. I just put into the chat the URL for our website and to join Ganec. And you just on that page, you can see the membership application is right there. And remember, you can also, as Derek said, go to the ganec.org/benefits, and you'll be able to see all the things your membership brings you, including links to all the digital offerings. And so if you've missed a meeting or you want to watch a FAM tour, a virtual FAM tour, you can just go back and do that again. That's all part of your Ganec membership. So it's definitely worth it. And yes, as Derek said, you have to be logged in. So log in first to your account, and then then you'll find the benefits section. So yes, any questions for Derek? I see something's in the Q&A. Let me see. Oh, I think that was a question for Mike. Mike, if you check the Q&A, you'll see a question from Sam Christie. Thank you. All right, so that's it from Derek. Thank you very much, Derek. Good, always good to see you. And let me just hold on a second. I'll bring in our last speaker. It was actually our last speaker is here is John Semlak. So I will put Derek back as an attendee. And John, take it away.
This will be very brief, and Nina already basically gave my report, but thank you very much, Nina, for mentioning that. So we have an event that'll be co-produced by the 2 committees, Multilingual Guides and Education. This is an interesting one that came my way. This developed out of contacts I made at the WFPGA conference in Tbilisi, where I met some guides from around the world, including from Kiev, Ukraine, and also it's connected with my my recent virtual tour on the Slavic Peace Village. So the Guides Association of Kiev, which is known as Guides Guild, I think they call it, they are offering us a presentation on some Ukrainian artifacts, some medieval Ukrainian artifacts that have ended their way up in New York somehow. I don't know more of the details, and I'm going to find out with anyone else who signs up for it. But it sounds like it might be a little bit of an Indiana Jones story. I'm hoping it's that interesting. But they're going to give it will be in English. Yes, of course it's a presentation for us. So if anybody is interested in signing up, it's on I forget the day of the week. It's on the April 13th at 12 noon, and they will be giving it to us from Kiev, of course, a few hours later in the day. And I hope to see some people there. So again, it's all already posted on Wild Apricot and all the other places we post our events, and it's free. It's all open to our members, and looking forward to it. Thank you.
Great. Anyone have questions for John? You're welcome to put those into the chat. The event was sent out via Wild Apricot, but if you go into, when you're logged into the Ganec website, if you go into, remember always the members menu, you can find the different events and that will come up and you can register there as well. So so be sure to look for that. It sounds fascinating, and I love the idea of an Indiana Jones treasure hunt of medieval Ukrainian objects coming to New York City. So thank you very much for arranging this, John, and who better than you to have a little link with our Russian speaking counterparts across the globe. So thank you, John. Now our last presentation will be Patrick for giving us an update on Destination Capitol Hill. So go ahead, Patrick.
Thank you, Emma, and I can't wait to see John in a fedora with a bullwhip. It's going to be great. Many of you, of course, are familiar with Destination Capitol Hill. It is an event that Ganec has participated in now for the past 3 years that I've been involved with. There might have been one before that. The short version is it is organized by the U.S. Travel Association, and a delegation from Ganec becomes lobbyists. And working with the U.S. Travel, we meet with usually the legislative directors of various senators and members of the House of Representatives who are lobbying for the tourism industry. Because of COVID-19, of course, tourism pretty much was gutted. We were unable to have the event last year, so this year they were able to ramp up a virtual version. And this year, myself, Harvey Davidson, Kit Garrett, John Semlak, virtually connected with Senator Chuck Schumer and Representatives Jamel Bowman, Antonio Delgado, Adriana Espillat, Grace Meng. Now, I have to point out that usually this is done in such a way that I'll meet with my representative and it'll be kept within your state. Kit Garrett took great umbrage at Senator Romney's chiding about arts money in COVID funding, and she hustled, and I don't know how she finagled it, but she got a meeting with Senator Mitt Romney and discussed arts funding in COVID. And congratulations for that. And she actually was able to meet with Senator Romney. Frequently, we meet with the legislative directors. There were several pieces of legislation that were up for a vote. One had passed the House the night before we met. We got the official announcement that morning. It has since cleared the Senate, and last week, President Biden signed the extension for the payroll protection, the PPP. That deadline is now extended to May. There are other pieces of legislation that are still banging around the halls of Congress, including funding for Brand USA. This is going to be hugely important because no matter what we do here to make tourism viable and safe, means nothing if the word doesn't get out. Brand USA is the megaphone. There's also setting a standard for corporate meetings to encourage business travel back into the United States, and tax credits for those who travel, not just the corporate travel, but also for you and your families, giving you a tax credit to go ahead and travel. So of all the items that were discussed and pitched and lobbied, we were successful with the PPP. I will be posting on Ganec's social media tomorrow morning the other items, and feel free to continue to lobby your elected representatives. For the most part, Democrats are on board with all of this, and for the most part, Republicans aren't. So if you've got a Republican rep in your life, go after them. One of the things I find interesting, a piece of information that everybody forgets when they talk about tourism dollars, is it's as close to free money as any county or municipality or township gets. A tourist dollar is not going to go to that individual's using a school, a hospital, police, a lot of water, a lot of sewage, a lot of infrastructure. No. So the more tourism is made welcome into our communities, the more our communities benefit. I mean, it's our jobs, of course, but our communities as a whole benefit. So I'll be available for any questions. You can also reach me through secretary@ganec.org, and I will have the other bills that are up for discussion on social media, on Facebook primarily, for you to discuss. Thank you. Any questions? Let me go into the chat here.
I can't really see any. I'm so impressed. Thank you, Kit, for getting to Mittens and I'm sorry, Senator Romney, and promoting the arts. That's really a great thing. And thank you, Patrick. Destination Capitol Hill. It's really important. It's not just just schmoozing and chatting people up. When congressional aides and senatorial aides, they like to hear from their constituents. And you can really, make an impact. So like Patrick said, keep writing to people, write to your Congress critter, let him or her know how you feel and what's happening in your neighborhood and with regards to tourism. One thing that Mike Morgenthau put in the NYC and Company All In Neighborhoods campaign, you must have a business email address, not Gmail, Yahoo, or AOL. So your businessname.com, or .net or whatever it is. So thank you for that reminder.
One of the great things I'll pass on about the Destination Capitol Hill is we also had a number of legislative directors who were new at this. So don't feel that there's any eye rolling or, oh, same old, same old. No, there are enough new people coming into office every time this is being done. We're educating somebody new. Delgado's legislative director had no idea the depth of tourism in his own district, which is Upper Hudson Valley going up toward Albany. It was fabulous. So
yeah,
get out there. You can do this.
Yeah, and that's a huge tourism neighborhood, and that's
Yes.
People need to know that. And it's interesting, even where I am in Jersey, tourism is people walking up and down the Palisades. Not just me, but lots of tourists coming in, and then they spend their money. They go to the restaurants and they visit our towns. So yes, so thank you very much. Thank you very much, Patrick, for reminding us of that. So is there any other business? Does anyone have anything urgent that they'd like us to address altogether? Patrick, I'm sorry.
Sorry, urgent is I left somebody off the roster. Kevin Lawrence was also part of the team, and you met with Esplanade, correct? Yes, thank you, Kevin, for your participation. Sorry about that.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Yes, thank you everyone who participated. And one nice thing is about having it virtual, you can do it from the comfort of your own home, so that can be very helpful and much less expensive. So,
I was doing it from the Javits Center, getting my second shot.
Nice. Multitasking. Okay. All right. Well, everybody, I think that is a wrap for the evening. I have to say, thanks again to Kevin Lawrence and Education Committee for the poetry. It's so wonderful. That was really a lot of fun. And I'll, true confession. And when you said to read, your favorite poems, perhaps, and I don't have particular poems about New York City. One of my favorite is The Jumblies by Edward Lear. And my mother would read it to me. And I read it to my children, and the far and few, just rocks you to bed. So I love poetry, and I love being reminded how much I like poetry. So that was really great. And huge thanks to all our committees, and especially to Mike Morgenthau, who is just doing the lion's share of Ganec work right now. I'm bird watching and going to museums and writing a gajillion virtual tours because Mike is doing the heavy lifting. Mike and Mitch and Nikki, I was on a meeting with them, and it was just mind-boggling. I sort of sat there and nodded and saying, you guys, you got it. It is going to be amazing. So Guide Week is going to be fabulous. $20 is a bargain. We are getting so much for this. Great panels. I have seen some of the panelists who are going to be speaking. It's going to be chock-a-block full of things, and it's just directed to guides. I know everybody gets zoomed out. We've had so many meetings, WFTGA, NFTGA, all these different things. This is really great information that all of us can use. So as soon as the registration opens, get your butts in there, register right away, and we look forward to full participation. And then this is what I'm so excited about. This is a great way to show what Ganec can do. Okay, we are becoming the envy of guides associations. I have presidents of other guides associations saying, wow, I wish, we did as much. I'm like, well, you've got to get a good board, like the board that you all elected, and you've got to have good active members. So we're doing this for you guys. We're happy to do it. And it's going to be great. It's going to be great. So thank you
One quick
all.
thing, Emma, I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I just forgot to mention also on the first 2 nights of Guide Week, the Monday and Tuesday, there will be some sort of social virtual event in the evening for networking and fun and things like that. So.
Yeah, that will be good. And yes, and thank you, Harvey and Sam. I think 2 of our newer, Harvey's one of our newer members who are really enjoying the energy tonight. And yes, even when we're in a Zoom, we're really keeping it going. Okay, so thank you, everybody. Jeremy could not attend tonight, but he does send his best and send his regards to all members who are on. So thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Get out and enjoy the sunshine. And look out for that registration. We'll see you there. Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.